Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Leonard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and an occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Politics Podcast. I did a short pause there. It's like, I forget the name of my own show. For those on video, well, you could see here, I'm holding up a minor note. I don't like to script shows. We just kind of go where the show goes. Joining me is Kathy McDaniel. For those of you who follow CIA declassified documents, think MK Ultra. M.K.McDaniel.
There you go.
Because that's what's on your book, Misfit in Hell to Heaven Expat, M.K. Mary Kathy McDaniel. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. I tried getting you last year. You never got back to me. Whatever. Maybe you didn't get my outreach. Maybe got whatever. But this year I decided I wanted to reach out again, and here you are. So,
Yay.
I guess it wasn't meant to be then. It is
That's
now.
Right?
That's the way to look at it. And the usual first question, right? Who the heck is M.K. McDaniel? Where were you born and raised, and where are you now? How much time did you spend in prison, and for what?
I got out on good behavior, actually. Well, it's a long story. I just turned 79, so we got a lot of ground in there.
Yeah, give us the Cliff Notes version.
The Cliff Notes would be, let's see, born in St. Louis, Missouri, but my dad was in the Navy.
I like to joke, the state of misery.
Oh, Missouri. Yeah, I didn't stay long.
Because your dad was, you started
he was in the military, so we got moved every 2.5 to 4 years. So
yep.
New York and Maryland and Kansas and California. And so I spent most of my time as an adult in California, and I got out of there about 26 years ago, and I'm up in Washington State.
Thank God you escaped. Oh, Washington State is not necessarily, if you're in Seattle,
no,
it's not
south
much
of Seattle by an hour, and it's beautiful, good. Right on a harbor. It's like life 30 years ago here. It hasn't caught up yet. So
yeah, there are several counties in Washington and Oregon trying to secede from those states and join Idaho. It's like, it's getting to California here.
Yeah, I know. The Californians are coming up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The eastern counties of those states want to join Idaho, and I don't blame them. And of course, you mentioned Kansas, so got to do the proverbial joke. We're not in Kansas anymore. Right?
Yeah, 4 years of that was plenty.
Whole lot of corn, right? Yeah. Like Iowa, whole lots of corn.
Tornadoes. That's the part I didn't like. Whoops, my lights went out. Hold on. We're talking about this stuff, and somebody's not happy in the universe. All right, that she is. Okay.
Okay. So indeed, at any rate, so we kind of know a little bit about you. Indeed, the summary on the podcast guest list that we are both members of, where there's also Matchmaker FM and Radio Guest List and a few other sites where podcasters and guests. I've been picked up as a guest by many podcasts through all these things too, as well as bringing guests on to my podcasts through them. But yeah, your podcast guest list summary, that's all I have here, says near-death experiencer, author, speaker. And indeed, the NDE, I've had people talk about afterlife, including an atheist who talked about afterlife from a scientific non-believer standpoint. So that was really interesting. I had to get you on to talk about that. And again, the book title, Misfit in Hell to Heaven Expat, M.K. McDaniel.
Yes.
So obviously the NDE inspired the book. What all happened?
Well, about 20% of the people that have NDEs have something called disturbing, not your ordinary run-of-the-mill stuff. So I was one of those people, and
there's like the Freddy Krueger invaded your dreams kind of NDE.
And that would have been nice.
Because then there's those others that have those wonderful, lovely, fluffy on a cloud and all their relatives are there kind of thing.
That wasn't me. No. Well, it wasn't at first, but what happened is I had been really sick. I got something akin to COVID before the COVID came out. I had lung failure. They put me into a drug-induced coma. I was there, I don't know, quite a while, 19 days or something. And they told me the last thing the doctor said is, you won't be able to remember anything of what happens. So when I woke up in this very dark place, and I thought, what's going on, man? And I was, just kind of hung out, but it did turn into an adventure, starting with this reddish fog, kind of like you see in the background here, reddish fog and heat and people screaming and shrieking. And I thought, like you said, you're not in Kansas anymore.
Right. It was like you landed up in one of the layers of Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, right.
But it may not have been the worst layer, but one of them at any rate.
The thing is, you don't know you're dead. That puts a real handicap in the situation, because you think, this is happening right now and there's no good reason for it. There's nobody to help you. And you're just kind of staying one step ahead of the next disaster. So for me, it was a series of segments. And the first one was
almost like a movie, separate acts.
It was, except somebody was changing the channel. On your television, and they were all, horror movies. And so you'd go from one to the other, and I wouldn't know when it would happen. The lights would just go out and I'd freeze, and then the lights would come up and be totally in a different situation. So this went on several times. The first one was this bombed out city thing. I just, the lights came up, and it's like being in New York City and somebody's dropped an atomic bomb, or aliens have landed. Something terrible happened here, and people are screaming, and there's fires and buildings are falling down. It kind of upset me. So I kind of tucked into this broken concrete that had fallen, and I'm seeing all these weird people, creatures, whatever, going by, and I thought, geez, I got to get in. I'm survival mode. That's, so I thought maybe if I could just get into one of these buildings, I might find some people that are left. There might be food, shelter, whatever. So as I was running through all this concrete and stuff, I tried to climb up on a wall, and I slipped, and I was falling backwards. And I thought, this is going to hurt. Boom, the lights go out. Boom, the lights come up. Now there's this Bigfoot demon thing standing in front of me, and you're just in total shock. What, now what? So it was bizarre in that he said, "Do you want to get out of here?" And I thought, wow, that was perfect English, for a Yeti. I wonder where he learned that. But English major, so I said,
went to Oxford.
I was going to play along. I said, yes, I certainly would like to get out of here. And he says, well, I got a job for you. You do this one thing, I'll see you get out. And I said, I felt there was a trick involved here, but he kind of waved his arm, and behind me there was this huge, interminable field of brambles and raspberry bushes and just big thorns on it. And I thought, and he says, you just cut all that down for me. I need that done, and I'll get you out of here. Well, I thought, A, it's impossible. And then B, he hands me these little scissors that kids cut paper with, and starts to laugh. He thinks it's funny. So I thought, expletive. So I got down and I tried to, cut at least one of the, I thought, well, I got nowhere to go, nothing to do. I better just try this. Maybe I can, think of something. But anyway, as I finally cut one of the canes, and went to put it behind me, I turned back around and the thing had grown completely back. And this guy's laughing like it's really funny. And I thought, this is impossible, but I'm a survivor, and I'm just going to keep going. Well, the lights went out. The lights came back up. I'm someplace else. There was this road. A lot of times, actually, I liked the road because it was like a moonscape,
kill the Willie Nelson on the road again.
Yeah, that's about how I felt. But I kept turning around, making sure nothing was creeping up on me, and I had bad experiences there. And every time they would say, "I've got a job for you. I want you to do something." Sometimes it got squeamishly immoral, and I say, no, I'm not going to do it. They say, well, all right, it's just going to get worse, So that was the Misfit in Hell thing. Heaven Expat is coming up later. I finally did get to what I didn't know was going to be the last episode, but I made this demon lady very angry by singing a Christmas carol. I was really kind of ticked off. This whole thing was just a nightmare. And she had, it's in the book. I'm not trying to sell a book, but I don't know how we don't have
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, bottom line. I'll give you the bottom line. I ticked her off, and she came at me like she was going to club me. And I thought, what, so what, I'll just go someplace else. But boom, I did go someplace else. But this time it was just like, wow, all this joy, you love, you're at a birthday party. Everybody you ever knew was, it's just that kind. You couldn't imagine how wonderful that felt. You totally forget everything that's happened, and you just tumble in this wonderful love. It's kind of sparkly, and oh my gosh, there's not a care in the world. I can't remember anything. I don't remember my kids, nothing. I'm just enjoying this ecstasy. And as it kind of filters into solidity of some sort, I can see my friend. I had gone to Seattle to help him through leukemia. He had died.
That's why I have the hairdo I do.
Oh, really?
Leukemia. Yeah, I'm a survivor, though, obviously. Yeah.
Well, good for you, because it was nasty. I was up there almost 9 months. He and I had been engaged for 7 years and had gone our separate ways amicably when he got a job promotion. But there he had died. And so there he was standing there. And I thought, I'm still in this wonderful place and in mood, and I see him and he's laughing and he has his hair back, and he looks about 35 instead of 50, and he's just got this sparkle in his eyes like he knows something I don't. And I thought, oh Lord, he doesn't know he's dead. And he burst out laughing, and I thought, wait a minute, I didn't say that out loud. And then he's laughing again, like, come on, think it through. And I thought, holy, you know what? I'm dead. This is great. Oh my gosh, we're in heaven. Show me around, man. What are we standing here for? And he kind of crept up a little closer, not getting too close, and said, Mary Kay, you've got too much left to do.
And people who have that experience often come back saying, I came back kicking and screaming. I didn't want to come back.
No, what a lousy trick, Oh, was so mad.
Come back to this? No.
Oh, yeah. I was 86 pounds. I couldn't move. I had the trach. I thought, I can't even breathe. How am I going to get all this quote stuff done? So I was not a happy camper. It took me a couple more months to get out of hospitals and get my life, back to where I could move around a little bit, still a mess. And then, it only took me another 15 years. I guess it was really closer, the 10 years of having no idea what happened, afraid to die because I might have that health thing happen again before I got back to heaven. Nobody wanted to talk to me about it. Gee, Kathy, we thought you were such a nice Catholic girl. What you do in hell? It was tough. And then through this series of synchronicities, things started falling into place. I found myself in Seattle at an IANDS meeting. That's the International Association of Near-Death Studies. Whole bunches of dead people, they have the best time, really, because they're not afraid to live and they're not afraid to die. So I got in there and I listened to some of the fluffy stories, with the angels and puppies and stuff. And I thought, that's not what happened to me. And some guy overheard me complaining and said, why? What happened to you? And I said, well, he said, did you have a really distressing, terrible one in hell or something? Like he was excited. And I said, yeah. And he says, you got to tell us about it. Nobody ever will talk about these things. We know about, 20% of the people have them, but nobody will say anything. So that started my journey. And now 15 years later, I've been in IANDS. I co-host a distressing sharing group for people who have had these experiences. We can kind of get together once a month. They can tell their stories for the first time by people that won't judge them and understand, have been there literally, and kind of help them work it through. And I was lucky to find the books of Nancy Evans Bush and Howard Storm. There's been a bunch of them that have written really terrific experience-related books. And bottom line for me is I believe that as a Catholic, my whole life I was taught that I would go to purgatory when I died, because even though Jesus died for my sins, I still had to pay, something, get my sins burned off in hell. Yeah. It's like hell, but you'll get out, Kathy. So I think I made my own. I thought I would go to some place like that. So I did. And so it took me a long time to realize that each one of those segments, Joseph, had been things that had actually happened in my life. Like the first one I had been in the 1989 earthquake in Santa Cruz. The town fell down. There was fires and people screaming and I could pinpoint every single one of those things. So I thought, okay. And the other thing I've come to believe and accept is that had I stayed in heaven, or stayed dead, none of that would have happened. I believe that we choose our lives. I believe we come down here to learn things. We have a purpose. And I think my purpose was to have that experience and be able to come back and tell people God is all loving, all forgiving. There is no freaking hell. Nobody judges you. And just live your life the best you can. I was told later to be loving, kind, merciful, forgiving, encouraging, grateful, non-judgmental, and useful. That's it. Throw the rest out. If you can't remember all of that, loving and kind. And then the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, your story sounds a little bit like mine in that I am a suicide attempt survivor.
Ooh, yeah.
It's not something I want to talk about. Like you, right? Those people who went through don't want to talk about it, but it's important that we do for our own cathartic health, yes, as well as trying to help others. And yeah, today, as the joke goes, today may not be your today. And sorry, tomorrow ain't looking so good either, right? You don't know until you carpe diem. Next week, next month, next year. My Terror Strikes book, I started it and had a version of it in 2006, but it didn't come out as an Amazon bestseller until 2022. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
But as part of that, there was a suicide prevention sub-thread to make that point and share the story. All life has value and meaning. You may not see it yourself, doesn't mean it's not true. Right? And little things can matter. They add up to some things bigger. Again, whether you see it or not. So I'm not happy to talk about my weakness, my depression then, and indeed overdosing, but yet coming back, and indeed I didn't have an NDE or anything, but clearly my time wasn't ready to be up. I had things I needed to do. I think like this show and having people like you on.
That's absolutely right. And that's specifically how I feel the too much left to do was made available to me. I got a email from Kirsty Salisbury in New Zealand, and she said, I want you on my podcast, which I had no idea what that was. And that has led to, I think I've done 177 now in the last 5 years. And that, with millions of views. So here's this old lady in Gig Harbor, Washington, who was able to take that message only through people like you.
Yeah. And not everyone, I always say everyone has stories in them worth sharing, but not everyone's going to be able to write a book, which is why I also wrote How to Write a Book and Get It Published, to help people who have that story, want to share it, and help them get it available. Also, not everyone is a podcast going to be for them, but I wrote Podcasting Quick Start Guide for those who, like I'm going to lift up my green screen and you could see the ugly couch with all, I may not be a hoarder, but I am a slob. Look at all that stuff on the couch hidden behind the green screen. Doing this podcast from my living room, indeed, right? I'm not a big, high production show, right? You may not be, but again, you may not do either of those things, but again, little things you do on a daily basis, you might not recognize as important, are just as important. As long as you're trying to sow a little bit of good so good can be reaped rather than doing nothing and being complicit in the rotten fruit that is then reaped, and we're all trying to choke down to sustain ourselves. Yes.
Absolutely. And every time you leave the house, whether you're in your car, whether you're standing in line at the grocery store, just to give somebody a smile and just chit chat just a little bit. I don't care who it is. It elicits something in them, a spark. Oh, I've been seen. I'm valuable. Oh, exactly. I'm worthy. And it's loving and kind is just magical.
Yes. Those are a lot of the little, right? I like to joke. You remember the Pantene shampoo commercial? They tell two friends, then they tell two friends, then they tell, right? Pretty soon you got a movement, right? And these, like the movie Evan Almighty, which is a comedy, but important. Ark. God tells them to build an ark, but it's really about ark as an acts of random kindness is the moral of that story. You don't see those great moral stories coming out of Hollywood anymore, but indeed and we have to remember though, we're all human, flawed, frail, imperfect. I can have a bad day. You can have you give a smile and you get a snarl back. Recognize, okay, maybe they're just having a bad day. Sometimes someone may be having a bad day. You give them a smile, and even if they give a fake smile, forced smile back, as you kind of alluded, they walk away and their day has been made better, and they may crack a smile to somebody else. And again, hopefully you have that arc, that those acts of random kindness movement going.
You betcha. It's easy and it's free. And you feel better too.
Smiling is free, people. Don't be so grumpy, please.
Yes. So that's kind of where I am today. I love my IONS group, and it's ions.org if you want to find out anything about near-death experiences, and sharing groups, and it's all very positive. We have conferences once a year. This year will be in Chicago in Labor Day. And I'm telling you, the energy there is so upbeat and fantastic. The worst part is you have to leave. It's like a little slice of heaven, and you go, oh man, I don't want to go home.
I like what you said earlier, right? And you're not really afraid of dying because you've been there, done that.
Yeah.
And your greater fear is not living, living positively, getting something out of this life, not it just being the plane of existence before we get judged and go to heaven or not.
And really, there is no judgment. There's a life review, and it's just for your own edification. How did I do? How did I do on my job down there? And you get to see your entire life. I wasn't there long enough. They threw me out too soon. But thousands of people have reported the same thing. And then they turn that around and run it again, and you get to experience how it was to interact with you. So that person you did smile at, you get to feel they got a little bit of joy back, or you lent somebody some money and didn't expect it back, or whatever wonderful things you did, you get to feel how wonderful it was that you were on that earth. And if you were in traffic one time and you laid on the horn and that poor little old lady just had, you get to feel her fear, you get to feel her hurt. And that's not a judgment. That's just kind of karma. You put that out, you get to feel how that was.
Yeah.
And then everybody says there's reincarnation, so you just come back and try it again.
I'm glad you said that, because the Bible does not preclude it. Exclusion does not, or preclusion does not mean exclusion. We have one eternal soul. It doesn't say only one life on earth. Indeed, some, for whatever reason, might be required to come back. And I want to push back. I don't want to believe that there's not a hell, because there are certainly a whole lot. I sure hope Hitler and Stalin and Mao are not up there.
Well, I'll tell you that I love that one. That's my favorite, because if Hitler gets to feel the pain, agony, fear that he enforced on other people, all those millions of people, he's still halfway through his life review. He's going to get to feel all that. And what more can you do to the guy? And God just, is not judgmental. God is love. And we'll just get to experience what we put out. And I think that's,
I'll get into trouble.
Not like us. God is not like us. We're vengeful, but God is.
I'll get into trouble, because if I run into Hitler in the streets of heaven, I'm punching him in the face.
No, he's still in the life review room. He's not going anywhere.
Okay, thank you, M.K. McDaniel. I try to keep my show short. I call it the Twitter attention span these days, right? Everybody wants to just give me the headline, even though it might be misleading. Details matter. Cover as much as we can in a short period of time, so that people will actually watch or listen.
Sounds great. Well, thanks for having me on the show. It was wonderful to meet you. I've had a really good time.
Well, thank you for coming by. Take care. God bless.
You too.
Wait. I do this all the time that after I hit stop and record, there are always things I think, oh, I needed to say that, or I needed to ask that, but I don't do this. Add a tacked on additional segment all that often, or frankly, I'd be annoying you as much as it's annoying to me that I keep forgetting things. But regarding the exclusion does not mean preclusion thing. Reincarnation. Just because it doesn't say there isn't in the Bible, it also doesn't say there isn't it in the Bible. What is it with some people? The sin of hubris that think God owes them explanations and answers to any and every question they may have while we're here on earth. God doesn't owe us that. Hopefully we get the answers to our questions, indeed, in heaven, but we're not owed them here. Just as a young child isn't owed an explanation of, don't do that. That's bad for you. And sometimes they have to touch the hot stove to learn, whoa, mom and dad were right. Don't touch that. But not have had an hour lecture of it's hot, you'll get burned, and they don't understand necessarily hot or burned because they're a child. We are all, despite all our advancements in human history, still children to God our Father. We are not owed all the answers. That's all I wanted to add on. Thank you all. Take care. God bless.
Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.